Hello everyone. As per the personality study of Akhenaten from the Year 12 Ancient History syllabus, today we are discussing the transfer of the capital to Akhet-Aten, also known as Amarna. Our agenda is to provide an overview of the transfer of the capital to Akhet-Aten and provide an overview of the political and religious motives. Our learning outcomes are to evaluate the role of historical features, individuals and groups in shaping the past, and to assess the significance of historical features, people, places, events, and developments of the ancient world. In Year 5 of the reign of Akhenaten, the fourth month of Peret, also known as the harvest season, day 13, the king in what would be known as Amarna announced the move of the capital city from Thebes to the new space. The new capital city was essentially midway between Memphis and Thebes. This city was to be dedicated to the god Aten alone, and tellingly, this site had never been linked to an Egyptian deity before. The city thus had a name that reflected this dedication, being Akhet-Aten, or the horizon of the Aten. The first official declaration that a move would take place occurred in Year 5, fourth month of Peret, day 13. Akhenaten was at the proposed site to mark the boundaries. According to the Boundary Stelae, the king made his way to an altar by chariot. This altar was under the open sky, which was a novel aspect of the Aten religion. Offerings were then made to the god, together with rites. After this preamble, the Aten then appears to Akhenaten and asks for all of the court to be brought before him. Once the officials, guards, and so on are brought before the Aten, the god made a declaration. This declaration was that something was to be made for him with an eternal and everlasting name. In other words, a city was to be dedicated to him. Following this, Akhenaten took an oath, stating he would create this city as intended by the deity at this specific site, including various temples, residences, and cemeteries. Boundaries of the site were then articulated, and boundary stelae were erected. A year later, Akhenaten visited the site, and new boundary stelae were erected at the site to reinforce the planned extent of the city. Our main source of information for the move are these boundary stelae, of which there are 16. Please note that some publications state 15, but Kemp in the city of Akhenaten and Nefertiti names 16, as does the Amarna project. As stated previously, there were two sets. One set dates to Year 5 and the other to Year 6. These stelae describe why Akhet-Aten was chosen, articulate the elements of the city, and the limits of the town. The stelae are massive affairs and are monuments in and of themselves. Carved into the cliffs, they were often flanked by statues of the king and queen. Stela U, for example, measures 7.6 meters high. These stelae also provide our only information for the reasons behind the move. They reveal that Akhet-Aten was a monument dedicated to the Aten, that the site may be enclosed by the Aten, and that everything within the confines of the city belonged to the Aten. The boundary stelae offer us more information than this, however. It also reveals the key buildings to be included in the site. These include two temples, House of the Aten and Mansion of Aten, a shrine for Nefertiti, houses for the king, and a cemetery in the eastern mountains. The king also declares that all revenue will belong to the Aten, and overflowing offerings will be made to the deity. If you are interested in the function and layout of the city when completed, see the next syllabus dot point and video. So why did Akhenaten choose Amarna? It is important to understand that, as stated by Aldred, the reason for the king's choice of a location in Middle Egypt for the sitting of his new resident city in preference to any other has not been disclosed, apart from the declaration in the Boundary Stelae that it was the Aten alone who brought him to this spot. According to Boundary Stelae K, Akhenaten says, "No official had ever advised me concerning it, to tell me a plan for making Akhet-Aten in this distant place. It was the Aten, my father, who advised me concerning it, so that it could be made for him as Akhet-Aten." Our one piece of primary evidence is then that the Aten himself told Akhenaten to build him a city at Amarna. However, we must keep in mind that this text is political in nature and was a religious justification for the move. We are uncertain of the true reasons for the move. However, the geographical location of Amarna itself may provide insight into why this locality was chosen specifically. The eastern hills, with the morning sun, appear to form the hieroglyph for horizon, also known as N27, which you can see on the right of the slide. It was suggested by Cyril Aldred that this geographical feature played a key role in the selection of the site for Akhet-Aten, which Akhenaten may have noticed himself if he was travelling by boat along the Nile. Here we have a physical representation of the horizon of the Aten in the geographical features of Amarna. Additional features of the site are important. For example, it is located on a long, well-situated plain, about 13 kilometres, surrounded by hills and wadis, while the other side of the river had a large area of agricultural land, which had the capacity to support a significant population. We thus have a site that appears to resemble the horizon, of which the city is named, together with an area that had the potential to grow enough food to support the inhabitants. So Amarna appears to have been chosen as it was virgin land, in that no other deity had been worshipped there, and it may have resembled the horizon where the Aten rose. But why move the capital to begin with, apart from that the Aten apparently decreed Akhenaten to dedicate a city to him? According to Gardner, the decision to build a new capital city was doubtless promoted by the recognition that the cults of Aten and of Amun-Ra could no longer be carried out side by side, but we are left in the dark as to the exact form taken by the rupture. In other words, a cult dedicated to the Aten could not happen in Luxor/Thebes, as it was a city so heavily entrenched in the worship of Amun. If Akhenaten wanted his new religion to be successful, he needed to do it away from Thebes. Similarly, Kemp argued that the move to Amarna was based on this notion of a fresh start, or a place that could be solely dedicated to the Aten without the competition of Amun. He states, "It is a tract of newly discovered land, uncontaminated by prior ownership, which in the first proclamation is desert and mountain where the Aten can feel fully at home without competition." There is another theorist that I would like to consider in more detail. Nicholas Reeves, another Egyptologist, adheres to this trend of a fresh start, a place to crystallize the vision of Akhenaten. In other words, the new aspect of his religion could be implemented at Amarna without coming into opposition. He states in Akhenaten, Egypt's false prophet, "But Thebes had evidently proved unworthy of its new god and was now to be abandoned for good. The move, characteristically impulsive and peremptory, was nevertheless an opportunity for the king to crystallize his vision. Here, at the modern site of Tel el-Amarna, in the very centre of the country, the Aten and its high priest would reign supreme, unchallenged by any other god." But Reeves goes further and has proposed a theory in which the move to Amarna was not just to solidify the new religious regime, but had something more sinister underlying it, namely assassination related to religious conflict with the Amun priesthood. As other sources indicate, Pharaoh and the Amun priesthood had been in an uncomfortable alliance for a number of reigns, had old enemies resurfaced with the accession of a strong-minded son who brooked no opposition. This conflict in turn may have led to an assassination attempt. Had there, in short, been an attempt on the life of the royal person? What could have been worse than regicide? If Akhenaten had narrowly escaped assassination, and his subsequent persecution of the Theban god does indeed suggest a grudge of considerable magnitude, then he was now moving cleverly and decisively to outflank the opposition. Reeves' theory is not without flaws. No primary sources suggest Akhenaten faced an assassination attempt or conspiracy against his life. For other assassinations or assassination attempts in Egyptian history, we typically have evidence, such as the conspiracy against Ramses III. In this instance, we are completely without data to make such a bold claim. Reeves also argues that Akhenaten's statements in the Boundary Stelae of "it was worse than those things I heard in Regnal Year 4, offensive things were said," and that someone said, "I will commit an offence against Akhenaten," suggests that Akhenaten had faced opposition to his new religious regime. However, opposition and discontent does not always equal assassination attempts. Furthermore, holding a grudge against Amun, as suggested by subsequent erasures in the later years of Akhenaten's reign, could be from a number of reasons and not just an attempt on one's life. For now, Reeves' theory is just a theory and an attempt to make sense of the sudden move of the capital to Amarna. Based on the information we do have, the move to Amarna was likely related to the need for a fresh start on land that had not previously been linked to another deity. Amarna itself may have been chosen based on the geographical features of the site, namely the Eastern Hills. A new city also gave Akhenaten the opportunity to crystallize and realize his religious and political vision fully, such as he manifested himself completely as the high priest of the Aten, while new temples could be built that were completely open to the sky. While the move may have been inspired by opposition in Thebes, such as from the Amun priests or the wider society, this opposition does not need to have been as drastic as an assassination attempt. The syllabus itself specifically focuses on political and religious motives for the move to Akhet-Aten, so the final part of this presentation will summarize these various points thematically. For the political motives, it undoubtedly was a way to centralize the power of the king away from Thebes and Memphis. By building a new city, it diminished the influence of the other regions. Finally, if we are to believe Reeves' theory, it may have been politically motivated in that Akhenaten was avoiding attempts on his life. The religious motives are easier to comprehend. They include to separate the cult of the Aten from Amun-Ra and the Amun priests to ensure the success of his religious reform. By transferring the capital and dedicating the new city to the Aten, the power and the influence of the Aten was solidified, as it now had a specific place dedicated to its worship. It represented a reservation for the Aten that was protected from trespass, again linking to solidifying the power of the Aten. Finally, key aspects of the religion could now be realized and embraced in this new space. For example, this includes new architecture, temples open to the sky, ways of worship, altars dedicated to Akhenaten, and tombs on the east bank.